All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, one of the most expensive traps in all of poker. We are talking about the seductive, dangerous, low hand in Pot Limit Omaha 8.
So, let me just start with a question that gets right to the heart of it. How is it even possible to hold what you think is the unbeatable, best possible hand, the nuts, and still get absolutely crushed at the showdown?
Well, that crazy paradox is exactly what makes Pot Limit Omaha 8 or better, or PLO 8, such a wild and tricky game. It's a split pot game, which means the pot is divided between the best high hand and the best low hand. But as you're about to see, just chasing one half of that pot, especially the low half, is a recipe for absolute disaster.
Okay, so to really understand the trap, we first have to understand the target. So what exactly is a low hand in this game?
The rule here is pretty strict. You need 5 unique cards, and they all have to be ranked 8 or below. Aces, they're your best friend. They count as the lowest card possible. And here's something that trips people up at first. Having a straight or a flush doesn't matter. It doesn't disqualify your low hand.
So the objective seems pretty straightforward, right? Just make the nut low and scoop up half the pot. Easy money. But not so fast. This simple goal is exactly where so many players make incredibly expensive mistakes. It's a seductive path that, more often than not, leads straight off a cliff.
And that brings us to our first major danger, a true catastrophe for any player who's not prepared for it. It's called being counterfeited, and it can turn your dream hand into an absolute nightmare in the blink of an eye.
So, the crucial thing to remember is that your low hand must use 5 unique cards. When a card hits the board that pairs one of the low cards you're holding, it completely destroys your low. That beautiful, unbeatable hand you had is suddenly just gone.
Let's walk through an example so you can really feel the pain. You're on the turn. You're holding Ace-2, and the board is King 8-5-4. You are sitting on the absolute nuts for the low, Ace-2-4-5-8. It literally cannot be beaten. You feel invincible, so you start betting, building this huge pot. Everyone is paying you off. Then the river card comes, and it's an ace.
And just like that, it's a total disaster. The ace on the board counterfeits your hand. Because you now have a pair of aces between your hand and the board, your unbeatable ace-2 low is gone. The nut low you invested your entire stack in has just vanished into thin air. It is completely worthless.
Okay, so if getting counterfeited is like a sudden gut punch, our next danger is more of a slow, painful bleed. It's the dreaded experience of being quartered, which is a bizarre situation where you actually win, but you lose money.
So here's how getting quartered works. It happens when you and another player have the exact same low hand. Let's say you both have the nut low. So you split the low half of the pot. But, and this is the kicker, your opponent also wins the entire high half of the pot. The result? They get 3/4 of all the money, and you get just 1 measly quarter back.
Let's put that in perspective to see how brutal it is. Imagine you and an opponent both get 100 big blinds into the pot. That's a 200 big blind pot. If you get quartered, you only get 50 big blinds back. You just lost 50 big blinds on a hand where you technically won something. It is a bankroll crushing outcome.
And this chart just illustrates the pain perfectly. Look at that. Your opponent walks away with 75% of the money that you both put in the middle. You are left with just the crumbs. This is exactly why playing a low-only hand is so incredibly dangerous. You're often taking on a massive risk for a very small reward.
Okay, so we've seen the disasters. Enough of the horror stories. The big question is, how do we avoid them? This is where we get into the solution. Professional strategies like having protection and always aiming to scoop.
So the key concept, the number one thing to focus on is what pros call counterfeit protection. Think of it like having a plan B built right into your starting hand. You want extra low cards that can step in and save the day if your main ones get counterfeited by the board.
This slide shows it perfectly. On the left, you've got a hand like Ace-2, King-Queen. That's what we call a naked low. It's totally vulnerable. If an ace or 2 hits the board, you're toast. But now look at the hand on the right, Ace-2, 3-Jack. This hand has protection. If an ace gets counterfeited, no big deal. You still have 2-3 to make a very strong low. If a 2 gets counterfeited, you've still got A3. This protection is the difference between a fragile hand and a resilient, powerful one.
And this brings us to the most important strategic shift you can possibly make. Like the pros say,
Your goal is not to win half the pot. Your goal is to scoop the entire pot. You have to play hands that have the potential to win both high and low. Playing for a chop is a low-margin, high-risk game. Playing to scoop is how you win big in PLO8.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question you have to ask yourself every single time you play a hand in this game. Are you just settling for a dangerous chop, fighting for scraps? Or are you positioning yourself to scoop the entire pot and your opponent's stack right along with it? The answer will define your success. Thanks for watching.